Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Thank you for joining us tonight. Happy to be here with you. It's a blessing. It's 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and we're going to get into plenty of what's going on in America at night in a minute. And I want you to join me if you can. 833-482-5337, the phone number 833-4-VALDEZ. And let's see, where do we start here? People are freaking out about Grok. Now, I'm going to give you a little prelude to this. The headline is Grok praises Hitler. And the bot is blaming the ex-owner, Elon Musk, for all of this. I don't know how much of that is accurate or not. We all know that he got rid of a lot of staff when he started purchasing the company and whatnot. But it doesn't mean that you've changed Silicon Valley, right? Same thing like President Trump. He comes in, he cleans house a little bit, but it doesn't mean you actually have drained the swamp, right? It's a long-term process. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things stuck in a lot of places. So I don't know if we can hang this one on Elon Musk's head, per se, that the chatbot was, saying something less than derogatory about Hitler. But I will say this. I saw something else that, because on Twitter you can, just at Grok and ask a question and the chatbot will answer. And it's pretty cool, right? It really gives you a lot of information. If somebody makes a statement that back in the days was a community note or people would report, you can just say, at Grok, is this accurate? And it'll give you a pretty balanced response. But one of the responses I saw, and I wish I maybe screenshotted it or something, I just happened to notice, I was like, that seems slightly biased, like as if, somebody who didn't like Trump wrote it. And I just thought that was kind of funny, given that, the back and forth, I'm not going to call it a feud, but we'll call it bickering between El Mosquito and El Trumpito. But anyway, needless to say, that's one of the stories that's out there today. Some of the other stuff that we're going to get into tonight is regarding the latest with the teachers union. The teachers union is not taking a back seat to anything. They don't care. They absolutely don't care what's going on, who you voted for, what the temperature is in the public. They're going to continue to do what they do. And I don't mean advocating for teachers and children. I mean being overtly political and on the wrong side of most issues. And sadly, that's just how that works. Now, President Biden, his doctor, was in a deposition today, and he refused to answer the questions at the closed-door interview, basically, I think, pleading the fifth and then giving one statement that he shouted out as he was walking away, saying, I think he stands by his word. And the whole thing is just interesting. But that's the latest with President Biden and his doctor interview. As we get more on that, I'll bring you more. And I don't know how many people care about that stuff. As you guys know, sometimes I'm a little jaded. I don't really care about some of those things. I think Biden's gone and done with. I know a lot of people are looking in the rearview mirror thinking, this was a big fraud perpetuated on the American people. But I think most American people looked at Joe Biden and knew what he was. He was Joe El Baboso Biden, right? He's literally the epitome, the personification of Weekend at Bernie's in the White House, right? Weekend at Bernie's White House edition. And while, it's funny, but not funny, I get it. Not funny because it's our country. Also not funny because he's a human being. And, my dad went through this battle with dementia, and there was nothing funny about it. And I see so much of what I saw in Biden I had seen with my dad. But at the same time, I choose every day, choose joy, right? It's one of the verses I like from the Bible. And I try to live my life through a humor-filled lens. I try to see the good in things. Because if I don't, well, I'll be angry all the time. And, just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I refuse to do all of that. So that's the story with Biden. I don't really care. I don't think most people do. Another thing, I don't care about, and I'd love to know what you guys think. Aliens and stuff like that. When people are like, "Oh, wait till people find out they're real," I think most people think aliens are real, and I think most people don't care. They're not going to stop what they're doing. They're not going to give up a lunch break or lunch hour. Somebody said, "Oh my gosh, come look at this report on the TV over here." But no, I've got 42 minutes to have my lunch, and I'm going to have it. I'm not going to sit here and watch your report on aliens. I don't think that many people care. I think some people are entertained by it, but I don't know if they care. And if I'm wrong, you let me know. It's not an alien show, so you don't have to really get into that. But I am curious to know, would you care if President Trump came out tomorrow and said, "We've been holding on to aliens in Area 51 for many, many years"? Would anybody care? I'd be like, "Oh, look at that." I think we knew that. We've seen like 800 movies about it. Anyway, let me move on. Linda Yaccarino has stepped down as the CEO of Twitter, known as X lately. She posted it on Twitter. Musk hired Yaccarino back in May of 2023, right after he bought Twitter for $44 billion. Yaccarino did not give a reason for her departure, but maybe it had something to do with the Grok stuff. Who knows? I'm not trying to start a rumor, but those are both of the big stories today. And, of course, this comes right after the big announcement, the big story, that the AI chatbot Grok was reportedly making anti-Semitic comments and referencing Hitler in response to posts about the Texas flooding. So the Grok AI is built by a separate company, which is merged with X, called XAI. And all of the stock transactions, this is according to CNBC, values the AI company at $80 billion and the social media company at $33 billion. So something that Yaccarino wrote was, "When Elon Musk and I first spoke of his vision for X, I knew it would be the opportunity of a lifetime to carry out the extraordinary mission of this company. I'm immensely grateful to him for entrusting me with the responsibility of protecting free speech, turning the company around, and transforming X into the everything app." But she didn't give a specific reason for any of that stuff. So anyway, that's a little bit on that. Now, I'm trying to, give you the first week, second week of July news, because, we run into these little news deserts every now and again. And not that we need to be bombarded with news every day, but sometimes it's nice that there's not a ton of things to report. Although, something we reported yesterday, that was reported yesterday and we discussed and commented on, was John Brennan. John Brennan and the FBI launching a criminal investigation into him, the former CIA director, and James Comey, former FBI director. And something that's interesting there is that he made a statement today, kind of retorting it, basically saying, yeah, good luck, some sort of snide comment like that. Nothing that was that interesting. Now, something that was a little more interesting was what Stephen A. Smith had to say, the sportscaster who occasionally gets into politics. And I thought his comments were interesting. I'm going to play them for you towards after the bottom of the hour, closer to the end of this hour. I want to get into that because, every now and again, Stephen A. Smith drops a really good comment that it's a good conversation starter that really opens things up to say, what's really going on here? So just wanted to put that out there. And something else I want to get into is ICE, DHS, all of this stuff. This stuff continues, right? There's a bunch of attacks on ICE officers. That continues to go up. Democrats continue to call for this violence. And the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, he went on The View And of course, he's asking for aggressive oversight of ICE and DHS, accusing the federal agents of overly aggressive behavior and claiming that Republicans are targeting immigrant families. Now, there may be some truth in the last one. If you're an immigrant family that's harboring an illegal immigrant that is on the list of people that they need to handle, then guess what? That's it. They're going to get them. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I hate to sound crass because I feel badly anytime these families are impacted this way. But, I mean, all the announcements were made. Everybody knows what's what and who's who. And I knew if I were living in another country and had overstayed my visa and was just enjoying, I don't know, let's say beautiful Medellin, Colombia, or, the Dominican Republic, or any one of these places that, are fun to go to. And, most people spend a week, 10 days, they go home. But let's just say we went on an extended holiday, and all of a sudden, we decide not to go home. Would I be surprised if they came knocking at my door and said, bro, you got to go. That's it. Time for you to go. You've been here too long. I wouldn't be surprised in the least. So I don't know how everybody else is so surprised. And yes, they might be mean. They might be aggressive. Well, I want to talk about that with Dan Epstein. He's the vice president at America First Legal. And we're going to do that in a little bit. So keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So, Leader Jeffries, you wear many hats, and one of your jobs is to try to win back the House for Democrats. And we were talking about immigration before we went to break. Now, some Democrats, amid the criticisms of ICE right now to do these ICE raids, have started calling for defunding ICE. Do you think that's effective going into the midterms, and do you support those calls?
Well, I definitely think that we need aggressive oversight as it relates to the overly aggressive behavior that we've seen, from ICE, from the Department of Homeland Security. It's not what the American people actually, in my view, voted for. Yeah. Donald Trump and Republicans promised to go after violent felons, but instead they're going after law-abiding immigrant families. And in fact, in some cases, deporting American citizens and children, some with cancer. America is better than this. And that's the reality. In terms of what House Democrats stand for, we believe that in this country, you work hard and you play by the rules, you should be able to experience the American dream. You should be able to afford to live the good life. And we believe that that's a good paying job, good health care, good housing, good education for your children, and a good retirement.
That, of course, is House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. And he's on there, again, telling a story that's just not factually accurate. That's stuff we've debunked on this program. The little girl with cancer, her family went with her because they wanted to leave. They were getting deported, and she said, hey, I'm taking my kid with me. That was not a kid getting deported because they were a citizen or because they had cancer. That was the family's decision. But yet, this is what the left does to try to spread the fear-mongering and continue to assassinate the character of President Trump, and by way of doing that, impugn the reputation of every person that voted for President Trump. So I want to get some reaction to that and get the legal perspective from our guest. He joins us from the America First Policy Institute, or actually America First Legal, and his name is Dan Epstein. Dan, welcome, sir.
Hey, Rich. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So you heard the clip of Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and I'm curious to know your reaction to that, and how I guess so many on the left are getting away with just contorting the law however they want.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what Minority Leader Jeffries wants to think is that, and you've seen this already, Rich, Democratic House members going to ICE facilities and saying, we have a right to conduct oversight. Number one, that gets the law of oversight wrong. Congress certainly has the power to request documents and to subpoena individuals. That does not mean they get to just go decide we're going to jump to an ICE facility and we're going to obstruct the activities of the administration. That's not oversight. That's obstruction. Right. That's a crime. Oversight is really about saying we want to do something legislatively. That's what everyone growing up in America knows, that Congress's job is to write bills. Oversight is not something separate from that. Oversight is, hey, Congress, conduct an investigation because the American people want you to write a new law. The fact that Hakeem Jeffries went on to national television and he didn't say anything about what law he wants to propose or work on with the Republicans means he doesn't take oversight seriously. His definition of oversight is weaponization of government, right? We know that the American people, whatever Hakeem talks about the American dream, he knows nothing about that, because what he wants to do is he wants to go against what Americans voted for with the America First agenda of President Trump, where they said we are sick and tired of having to subsidize those who break the law. And he used the term law-abiding citizens. What law-abiding? They broke the law in coming here. They're not citizens. Law-abiding immigrants, they're not law-abiding. They broke the law. Do we care about law? Does he care about law? I don't think so. That's why he totally misses the whole point of oversight. He just wants to engage in weaponization and go after the Trump administration and obstruct everything that the president is doing.
Yeah, Dan, I think you raised so many good points there, and one of which is what Hakeem Jeffries is doing here, the minority leader, I think is so interesting, because, again, we had a whole period of 8 years where President Obama, like a broken record, kept saying, look, I love these people. I would love for them to stay, but I was elected by the people. I have a constitutional responsibility to deport them. That's what the executive branch does. And everybody gave him a pass for it. I don't know if it's maybe President Trump needs to reiterate what Obama's position, or perhaps, we need less of Speaker Jeffries out there trying to twist the truth.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of this is that, you look at who runs the news media. Obama was their darling. Trump has led to a new theme of the Washington Post of democracy dies in darkness. The journalistic elite, the fourth estate, does not respect President Trump. And of course, President Obama could do no wrong, even though we all know, those of us like you, Rich, are in the media. I was very much running a transparency group during the Obama administration. We all know, and tons of journalists have said this, that Obama was the least transparent president in their professional lifetimes. No one ever, pushed back against him, even though, everyone knew that kind of deep, dark truth. And, I think part of this is, look, we need a media responsible to looking at the facts, reporting the facts, and where have they been in calling out Hakeem Jeffries? Come on, Alyssa Griffin. You worked in Congress. You worked for Darrell Issa when he was had the gavel as an oversight chairman. Why didn't you call out Hakeem Jeffries and say, actually, that's not what oversight is for? Oversight, what's your legislative proposal, Mr. Minority Leader? Of course you didn't do that, because once you go into the media world, you drink the Kool-Aid and you don't care about truth.
Amigos, we're coming right back with Dan Epstein, Vice President at America First Legal. And we're going to continue our conversation on ICE, in particular, why Democrats are scapegoating ICE to distract from their own failed border agenda. We're going to talk about that and more, plus your calls, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's coming up. Don't go anywhere. Dan Epstein, America First Legal, and me, Rich Valdez.
Look at Rich Valdez. He's now a radio host, and he's a great radio host.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Yeah, to my colleagues and other lawmakers around this nation that are using words like inspiring and encouraging these acts, I would just say you have gone well beyond advancing and arguing for political parties. You are now becoming more like agents of our foreign adversaries that want to destabilize our nation and attack our institutions and government. And certainly, I know many have said we're just paying attention to our base that wants blood. Well, listen to me. Your base is now criminals and anarchists, and if you are doing that, you are in fact inciting violence.
That is Senator Ashley Moody, former Attorney General of the state of Florida. And she's right. So many Democrats are calling for violence, in my opinion. It seems like the Democrats, at least the left within the Democrat Party, have never met a violent criminal they don't love. And that's probably why they're so upset with President Trump. He said he's going after the violent criminals. Those are the ones we love. I feel like that they're just attached at the hip here. But I want to get some reaction to that and really, again, dig in a little bit on this idea of why Democrats keep scapegoating ICE, why they're going after ICE and face masks instead of the bigger problem here that has been plaguing our country. And we're going to do that with our guest, Dan Epstein, Vice President at America First Legal. Dan, your thoughts?
Well, Rich, thank you so much for having me. You know,
Pleasure.
I think a lot of this is that I think the left looks at ICE and essentially looks at it as this kind of fascistic entity that's job is not about protecting the homeland, but really kind of, being like a dog catcher to human beings. And I think what they forget is that ICE, Customs and Border Patrol, other aspects of the Department of Homeland Security used to be through kind of broken up amongst many departments before 9/11, the Department of Justice, the Department of Treasury, and others. And
it was back
the reason
INS
that
back
they were
then, right?
Yeah, that's right. You had the Immigration and Naturalization Service. And the reason why after 9/11, Congress in its wisdom, including, numbers of Democrats, said we need to consolidate these functions is because when they're too dispersed, they're not effective. And I think when we think about immigration and customs enforcement, right, they look at it as just these people are policing and arresting and all of this, but they fail to realize that the majority of the drugs that come into this country, the majority of the firearms from foreign places that are connected to gang violence that come into this country, the numbers of terrorists who are committing domestic terrorism, they are coming through these borders. Okay. And so what that means is that if you don't have ICE, you are opening the floodgates. It's not just to this idea of, a good-natured immigrant who's done nothing wrong coming in here. It's that you're opening up the floodgates of all sorts of issues that not only will overwhelm ICE if it doesn't get to enforce, but it will overwhelm school teachers. It will overwhelm local police. It will destroy our cities. Right? We've seen that in Los Angeles. And, teachers, right? Imagine if the student-teacher ratio in places like Texas, Arizona, other border states went from, the current rate of 1 to 30 to 1 to 75, right? Americans sitting in those classrooms would lose the quality of education. So what is Hakeem Jeffries talking about everyone deserves a right to quality education? Well, everyone except Americans, right? And I think they just don't understand. They think first with what feels good or seems good. And of course, everyone agrees, immigrants are great. This is a country built on immigrants, right? But law matters, right? If you just open up the floodgates and say, anyone who comes in here, well, you're going to get a lot of criminals. You're going to get a lot of individuals who want to run drug rings, prostitution, sex trafficking. And, at the end of the day, you're going to bring in individuals who may not be doing any of those things, but certainly if they come into the United States outside of lawful means, they're not going to think that the law matters. They're not going to teach their kids that the law matters. They're not going to teach their kids that American culture and Western civilization matters. So you're inviting our own destruction. And probably that's what the Democrats want, because then big government starts deciding everything. And they already own the bureaucracy, so they might as well own the people as well.
Dan Epstein, America First Legal. I want to ask you about something, somewhat related, but somewhat different. The Supreme Court recently upholding the, I guess, finding that nationwide injunctions cannot be nationwide, right? At least, and they have to be on a case-by-case basis and have class actions and whatnot, thus giving the administration the space to execute their executive order on birthright citizenship. What type of impact, I guess, what's the legal impact that Americans can expect from that decision?
Well, Rich, there's a lot of kind of thorny legal issues involved in that. I think, as you rightly pointed out, what the plaintiffs are going to do is, okay, so we can't file an injunction in California to kind of bind the whole country, but we can file class actions where we have, numbers of individuals. In fact, there's a process called multi-district litigation, and this is typical of plaintiffs' lawyers going after, oil and gas companies and other sorts of things. Is we can get a multi-litigation district, and then you could have multiple class actions that essentially binds multiple district courts. So there are ways that they are going to kind of move through the background of this decision to get what they want to achieve. That all being said, unless and until there's an injunction against the administration, right, it can enforce the birthright citizenship executive order, which means that has implications both for how you count for purposes of the electorate, but it also has implications for federal funding and other sorts of things that, are crucially relevant to, who is, in fact, a whole person under the law. Is it any person, or is it a citizen? And this, of course, has enormous implications politically for states.
Dan Epstein, excellent analysis. I want to thank you for joining us. Let everybody know how they can follow you and the amazing work you guys are doing at America First Legal.
Yeah, please go to aflegal.org. You can see our excellent leadership. We were founded by Stephen Miller, who's now doing great work in the White House, and we're led by Gene Hamilton, a former top official in the White House. And we're on social media. Please follow us. Please, contribute, and please give us your ideas.
Dan Epstein, Vice President at America First Legal. Looking forward to having you back as things progress on this topic and others. Godspeed to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You bet. My pleasure. And amigos, your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, and a bunch of other stuff I want to share with you are coming up right now. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
And in your monologue, Jesse, I can't believe I heard stupid Stacey Abrams say that deportations kill democracy. Newsflash, Stacey, wide open borders kills democracy. And that's what the American people voted against. The American public witnessed an open border, illegal alien invasion for 4 years, and they said enough is enough. The vast majority of this country supports deporting illegal criminals from our communities. This administration is all hands on deck in doing that, despite pushback from these radical Democrats at the state and local level. ICE and Border Patrol are doing the work that they swore an oath to do, to remove public safety threats from our communities, to protect our nation, our homeland, and our citizens.
So that is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt calling out what she calls, or who she calls, stupid Stacey Abrams. And we played that Stacey Abrams cut last night. And again, I think she's spot on here. She rarely fumbles. I don't think I've ever seen her fumble. She's always on point in her analysis and her critique, and good for her. But the bottom line is the Democrats are really kind of beside themselves because it's my opinion that they've painted themselves into a corner and now they can't get out, right? They've kind of allowed the left within their party to say and do whatever they feel like doing. And this is the result. Not everybody is Ilhan Omar. Not everybody is Ayanna Pressley, AOC, All Out Crazy, or the rest of them, right? Including the new guy, Zohran Mamdani. But you've got a bunch of other Democrats that are either middle of the road or, slightly to the left or even very to the left, but not as socialist as these guys. And now they're all stuck in the same corner. And they can't get out. Why? Because they've got nothing. They've got no legislative wins. They can't even dream of getting a legislative win because Trump is so busy winning. He's winning on making peace in multiple countries. He's winning on getting this massive piece of legislation passed. Whether you like the legislation or not is irrespective of the point I'm making. The real point here is President Trump worked with Speaker Johnson, and I would presume to say every member of Congress, and made sure that his legislative priority, what he called the big, beautiful bill, got passed. He's been in office for 5 months. There are presidents that in 2 terms have tried to get a signature piece of legislation put through, especially one of that size, and were not able to. So kudos to President Trump for winning on such a massive scale. Now, when you talk about what was in the big, beautiful bill, of course, they'll come at you, right? I did a segment over the weekend on Newsmax, and there was a guy from, I think he's an organization called Occupy Democrats. And a nice guy, if I have to be honest here. Grant something or other. And he made a comment, and I didn't have a lot of time for follow-up questions or anything like that, but I did ask him, he made a statement saying, well, no tax on tips isn't really no tax on tips. It's really just saying that the first $24,000 are going to be at that zero tax rate. And then after $24,000, it goes to a different tax rate. And he was giving this convoluted, tax explanation. But all I could think of was, while he was there trying to poo-poo no tax on tips and no tax on overtime, I was just thinking, I used to be a barber. And I made a very good amount of money in tips. And my thinking was, I don't care if there's a limit of $24,000. Let's just say that is the case. That's $24,000 of tips that I'm not giving any tax to the federal government on. And that's fantastic. I can't imagine any tax break that goes to a middle-class, working-class person. And they're going to go, you know what, I don't like this because you're only giving me $24,000. And yesterday I was paying, on 100% of my tips. So I didn't understand his argument, but he was so adamant about it, and he almost sounded good making the argument. But the reality is, this is what the left is doing. It's don't believe your lying eyes. You don't really like no tax on tips. You don't really like no tax on overtime. You don't really like your employer paying for your child care because they now have expanded child tax credits. Now, none of these things that can really benefit people are supposed to be applauded. And I think that's insanity. Anyway, I want to get your thoughts on everything from Hakeem Jeffries to everything else that we're talking about. Let's go to, let's see here. Patrick, Bethesda, Maryland, WMAL. Go right ahead.
Hi, how's it going? Good evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I was just chiming in. I mentioned the screener. I didn't want to go too far into the weeds or have any too strange turns or anything, but I was commenting on whether or not aliens existed, if anyone would care.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically what I figured it comes down to, I guess just to clarify, I think Edward Snowden even tried to search for files relating to UFO existence and things of that nature and came up dry. So if they existed, if they existed, then he would have a hard time finding them. So I think realistically, if they did exist, it just comes down to almost being heresy in a sense. I think that's kind of the hindrance at the moment, why it's not a more acceptable thing, because then it comes down to basically, I guess, did God create them? Like, are there other religions? Are there other points to consider in terms of our entire existence and the story of our creation? And I think it just kind of contradicts a lot of what we've been told for thousands of years. So I think,
well, I mean, it might, depending, I guess, on the faith that you adhere to. I mean, if you're a reader of the Bible, I think there's multiple instances where aliens fit into there, and I'm not making the case for aliens per se, but all the creatures of the earth is one way of looking at it, and the fish in the sea and the birds of the air, right? There are other translations that are a little less literal, but one could surmise that, yeah, if God created this galaxy, He's created every other galaxy and every other inhabitant of these galaxies, and I think there's a lot of people that totally believe that, and I'm sure there's a lot of people like you that also think that it would call their faith into question. But I think that's probably more of the minority view. But either way, I don't know that's an argument you could have made 100 years ago, right? It's not an argument that one, I think, would pose if President Trump were to say, my fellow Americans, we've been housing aliens in Area 51. That I don't think people would say, oh, my gosh. Maybe some would. But I think, by and large, the question would really be not around faith and existence and whether it's heretical or not, but more so on why haven't they told us, or my opinion, which is big whoop. I don't care. Is that going to save me money on my next tax bill? Is that going to reduce the amount of mortgage I have to pay? I think that's what people are concerned about. I think it used to be, am I going to be able to send my kid to college? Now I think people are like, I don't think I'm sending my kid to college, right? Because college is a scam. In many situations, it's a scam. Minus any type of professionally licensed type of career, engineering, doctor, lawyer, hygienist, those types of things. You're going to need some requisite education for those things, but there's a bunch of other things you could probably get by without having a college education. And I think a lot of companies are going in that direction, saying they're opting for experience and or education, or a combination thereof, because education, at least formal education, higher education, has, in my opinion, reached the point of diminishing returns, where it's no longer a guarantee that you spend this much and you're going to make this much more. I think for some people, it's you spend this much and you're going to be in debt for this much more. And it doesn't make sense for them. So people are definitely rethinking that. And I think that's why there's a big boom towards the trades, which is a good thing. And once interest rates go down, it'll be even better, because we'll have a need for more people in the trades. Anyway, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Very, very thoughtful. And shout out to WMAL. And we're going to continue with KBFI in Idaho, my man Pablo, Eduardo, Tampa, Florida, streaming the show, richvaldez.com. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the, what is today? Wednesday night edition of the program. Happy to be with you. It's Hump Day, everybody. We're going to treat Hump Day like Friday. We're going to let our hair down a little bit. The phone number, if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, feel free to give us a call. The time right now, 7 minutes after the top of the hour. The phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Another action-packed hour for you guys, and truly a blessing to be with you. And I want to get into a few things. We're going to talk about some of the craziness going on in the teachers' union, because radicalism is just running amok. And speaking of radicalism, somebody unlikely, I would not have expected to hear this commentary coming from him. It doesn't shock me, We've had him on the program before, and my conversation with him was very balanced. He was a very fair-minded individual, and the person I'm talking about is sportscaster Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith was making some comments on his podcast that I think it made a lot of sense. Listen to this.
And if you're Mamdani and you're saying, no, because I saw him on national television indicate this. I'm not quoting him verbatim, so if I misquote him in any way, I apologize, but I don't think I am. I saw him on NBC this past week and Meet the Press, and he was asked about, billionaires, and he was talking about how nobody needs $1 billion. What? That's anti-American. That's anti-American. That's not going to fly. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now, the Democrats, if AOC and Mamdani and people and Bernie Sanders, if folks like that take over the Democratic Party, one or two things happening. The Democratic Party is toast, or America is.
The Democrat Party is toast, or America is. Let me tell you. That is a profound statement, and I'm just going to give you a fair warning. At the top of the next hour, I am going to repeat that clip because I think it's one that it really sums things up well. The Democrat Party is toast. Now, that is coming from somebody, he's older than me, so that is truth through his eyes, right? And many of the people listening to this program are my age or older. But the reality is the people that are moving, the economy that AOC deals in, the economy that Mr. Zohran Mamdani deal in, is not the same world. It's not the same voting universe. They don't do the same things, right? It's very common for them to go into their 30s unmarried without children. Very common. These things are uncommon for people in their 40s and 50s and 60s, right? Very uncommon. I can tell you right now, when I was in my early 20s, I got married, and I knew I was like the first of my friends to get married, and I was ahead of the curve there, but not by a lot, right? I was probably 23. It was probably expected around 27 or 28, but getting married at 31 was like, man, why'd you wait so long? Who was raising kids at 31 through 37 or starting their family? That wasn't a normal thing. Just in 1999, 2000, 2001, 2003, 2004, at least amongst my peers. We are Hispanic, so we tend to probably start our families a little younger. Culturally, it's a thing. But the point I'm making is when you're Mamdani, when you are AOC all out crazy, and these squad members that are younger, it's a different world. So is the Democrat Party really toast? Is America really toast? The answer to that is yes, America will be toast because there is no way for those things to work. The things that he talks about, this government-run bodegas, one in each borough, is that a thing? I mean, really, think about it. New York City has as many people as New Jersey, maybe more, right? 8.5 million people or so. This is a massive city. You're going to tell me that your argument is, no, we're not trying to take over all the bodegas. We're just trying to have one that we operate. Trying to complement you, come alongside of you. Just imagine that one place per borough. Each borough of New York City is a county. So one place in an entire county for 8.5 million people in these 5 boroughs combined collectively, to go and buy whatever they're going to buy in a bodega, a sandwich, a soda, whatever it is that they're buying, cigarettes. I can't wrap my head around that. Now, when push comes to shove and you listen to what Mamdani's talking about, he really is talking about the government taking over the means of production. Right? This is Evita Peron. This is Workers of the World Unite. We are the workers. We are the owners, not you. What have you done? You've just maybe come up with an idea, maybe patented that idea and saved money or borrowed money or used family money, but put the risk of the investment forward. You've only built the business, but we operate it every day. So we're the true owners. That's the twisted logic that they use, right? This is straight out of Das Kapital, out of the Communist Manifesto. Crazy. It's crazy talk. Well, these crazy talk people are the people that run the teachers' unions. They run the labor unions. They're in charge of policy making at so many levels. They make up the deep state. And this is where we are. So I think, are we cooked totally? I don't think so. I don't think we're toast just yet. I think there's a while to go because lamentably, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, socialism and communism have never worked for all people. They've only worked for the select few that get to live at the top and feed off the cream. But everybody else who can't skim that cream off the top, they're not getting anything. Therefore, it causes poverty. It causes them to say, no, you guys in Cuba don't have because of the wicked, evil, imperialist United States. It causes the people who are occasionally without power in Puerto Rico to, fall victim to believing that, the reason we don't have a solid infrastructure is because of the Americans. They're here buying up all of our property, getting tax breaks and incentives to come by here in Puerto Rico. And meanwhile, you and me are getting put out of our homes because of them. And I learned an old saying a long time ago. I can't get fat from what you eat. You can figure out how that works. Someone else's success is never putting you out. That's the bottom line. And that's something every last communist, socialist, collectivist just seems to either not want to believe or understand or outright rejects because they're intellectually dishonest. Either way, their movement is fake, it's phony, and it's fraud. And I want to talk about the teachers union cutting ties with the Anti-Defamation League over Israel. I want to talk about the teachers union backing Mamdani for mayor of New York City and Trump threatening a takeover of New York City. I think what he needs to do is endorse Curtis Lewa and put some muscle behind that campaign. That would be great, President Trump, if you would consider that. It really would. And I want to talk about other crazy things that the teachers unions are doing to, quote unquote, defend democracy against Trump and fascism. All of that and more when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
To the latest now in the race for New York City mayor. With a little more than 100 days to go until Election Day, Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani picks up a key endorsement.
The United Federation of Teachers had stayed out of the primary race, but now the union has voted to back Mamdani over current mayor Eric Adams.
Eyewitness News reporter NJ Burkett live in Lower Manhattan with more. NJ?
And Sandra, not a big surprise, but it is, of course, a big endorsement. The union president today praised Mamdani for his stance on affordability and his stated willingness to increase funding for public education here in New York. It is Zohran Mamdani's biggest endorsement yet. The United Federation of Teachers represents 200,000 educators in the largest public school system in the nation.
What I've said time and again is that we need a system that understands teachers, students, parents as being part of the way in which we deliver the educational policy of this city.
Mamdani is himself a graduate of Bronx Science, the elite city high school. He is a staunch opponent of charter schools and has promised to hire more teachers if elected mayor.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
To the latest now in the race for New York City mayor. With a little more than 100 days to go until Election Day, Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani picks up a key endorsement.
The United Federation of Teachers had stayed out of the primary race, but now the union has voted to back Mamdani over current mayor Eric Adams.
Eyewitness News reporter NJ Burkett live in Lower Manhattan with more. NJ?
And Sandra, not a big surprise, but it is, of course, a big endorsement. The union president today praised Mamdani for his stance on affordability and his stated willingness to increase funding for public education here in New York. It is Zohran Mamdani's biggest endorsement yet. The United Federation of Teachers represents 200,000 educators in the largest public school system in the nation.
What I've said time and again is that we need a system that understands teachers, students, parents as being part of the way in which we deliver the educational policy of this city.
Mamdani is himself a graduate of Bronx Science, the elite city high school. He is a staunch opponent of charter schools and has promised to hire more teachers if elected mayor.
That, of course, is a report about Zohran Mamdani, who from now on will be known as Mad Manny, because I think he's a madman. And he, getting this endorsement over the sitting mayor, who's a huge disaster. And I want to get to the bottom of this from somebody who keeps his finger on the pulse. He's been on the program before, Corey DeAngelis, senior fellow at the American Culture Project. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rich.
You bet, brother. So let's dig into this. Again, I don't think it's a shock, but I wasn't sure. I had heard early on that they weren't getting involved in the race because, there was Cuomo and there was Adams and there was this Mamdani guy. But he seems to be racking up the big ones. And again, the reason this one matters is because they spend a lot of money in elections.
Yep. Yeah, and if it weren't for the money, you would hope that this type of endorsement would be the political kiss of death. After the teachers' unions lobbied the CDC to make it more difficult to reopen schools, they hurt kids academically, mentally, physically. The teachers' unions are such a scourge on the earth right now. But, yes, they do have a lot of political power. They have organizing on the ground. And really this reveals that the teachers' union is not just an extension of the Democrat Party. They're an extension of the socialist wing of the Democrat Party. They're endorsing this guy who opposes school choice for others, but he went to a selective high school. Yes, it was public, but he went to private schools too, the rest of his educational career in middle school and elementary school. One of them in New York City that costs about $66,000 in tuition for kindergartners, and it goes up from there. I mean, the champagne socialist, he's the peak example of this, where it's school choice for me, but not for thee. He wants, socialist equity for everybody else, but not when it came to his own education. He vehemently opposes charter schools. That's why he got the endorsement of the teachers union. He'll do their bidding. Mayor Adams thankfully responded by saying, basically, we're not going to do the bidding of the unions. I'm here for the kids. And so, maybe that's a differentiator in this race. New York City has a lot of kids in charter schools, so many that they have wait lists of tens of thousands of kids trying to get into these institutions. Maybe those families who might agree with Mamdani on other things might say, hey, I'm going to go with Eric Adams because I want my education freedom. We saw this to be a game changer in Florida in the 2018 governor's race when DeSantis was going for the school choice families, and the Democrat called to get rid of the scholarships for 100,000 kids. So maybe this becomes a bigger issue in the race, hopefully.
Folks, we're on with Corey DeAngelis, senior fellow at the American Culture Project and visiting fellow at the American Institute for Economic Research. And, Corey, the fact that he's getting the money from these people, or will get the money from them, is I'm going to say cause for concern. But moreover, it seems like the teachers union themselves, whether it's the local chapters or Randy Weingarten at the federal level, they seem to be off their rocker a little bit, right? Just earlier this year, her being terminated or walking away from a position she held in the Democrat Party that I think nobody even knew about, but apparently she was there and she was, very involved. And I look at all of that and I think, there is almost no line between the administration of the union and politics. In my opinion, it has always, at least in my adult lifetime, solely been a political operation.
Yep.
Do you have a different opinion of that? And if so, tell me more.
Well, I mean, look, Randy Weingarten was at the DNC for 23 years and nobody knew. I started messaging a lot of my friends who are close in D.C. and look into these things, and I was like, man, I'm embarrassed. I didn't know about this. Did you guys know about this? Nobody knew about this. And the New York Times reported it as if it was common knowledge. Oh, yeah, she's leaving. She was here for 23 years. She had an influential position on the Rules Committee since 2009. And I think it's because she had a disagreement. Well, one, the mainstream media is an arm of the Democrat Party just as much as the teachers union is. They wanted to cover this up to promote their narrative that people like Randy Weingarten are just speaking for the teachers and not a political party. But there is this incestuous relationship. You're absolutely right, Rich, that 99% of Randy Weingarten's contributions from her union every single election cycle go to the Democrats. It's a money laundering operation. It ought to be illegal. And I got to tell you, this union that endorsed Mamdani is a it's the local affiliate of Randy Weingarten's American Federation of Teachers, and they're just off their rocker recently, and they're just letting it be known that they are a political organization. They're not even hiding it anymore. And at the NEA's annual convention that just happened last week, this is the largest labor union, the National Education Association. They chose their 2025 Teacher of the Year. Her name was Crossan, was her last name, from Pennsylvania. She gave her speech and she said the quiet part out loud for the world to see. She said that her profession, her job, is quote unquote deeply political, and that it always had been. And then she found her union buddies to help her advance that agenda. That is free advertising for school choice and homeschooling if I ever saw such an advertisement. And their resolutions, which were private ever since 2021, I used to call these things out. 2019, they had a resolution they tried to pass to rededicate themselves to be about student learning. Guess what? They went down in flames. They killed that resolution. In 2021, a couple years after that, they passed a resolution to dedicate hundreds of thousands of dollars in opposition research to people who are critical of critical race theory. And they had other Looney Tunes resolutions too. And then they put it underwater because they started to see all the blowback.
Wow.
Well, a union member who didn't like these things leaked the information to me this year. And there's some more crazy resolutions. It read more like a declaration of war on the Trump administration. It had nothing to do with education.
Right, nothing to do with teachers or students. Folks, we're on with Corey DeAngelis. He's the author of The Parent Revolution. It's a book you got to pick up a copy of. And we're going to come right back and learn a little bit more from Corey about what is going on with the teachers union when other lefties like the Anti-Defamation League decide they don't want to be your friends anymore. Keep it locked right here. We're going to talk about that and their attack on Trump, calling him a fascist, and so much more. Rich Valdez coming right back with our guest, Corey DeAngelis.
Guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So America's largest teachers union voting to cut ties with the Anti-Defamation League over its ties to Israel for 4 decades. The ADL has provided public schools material about the Holocaust and anti-Semitism, but moving forward, the NEA says it will not use them. At the vote last week, one NEA delegate saying, quote, allowing the ADL to determine what constitutes anti-Semitism would be like allowing the fossil fuel industry to determine what constitutes climate change. Joining us now to respond, Anti-Defamation League CEO Jonathan Greenblatt. So great to see you this morning. So first of all, who are these teachers that are in the NEA who are voting for this?
Yeah, so the NEA is the largest teachers union in the country.
Public school teachers.
Public school teachers. And the reality is it's an organization that clearly has been overtaken by activists. You know, these individuals are there to teach our children in the classroom, you know, the basics of reading and writing and arithmetic, not radicalism. But that's exactly what's happened.
That, of course, report featuring Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the Anti-Defamation League. And again, I got to say, this is one of those cases of the pot calling the kettle black, right? One activist organization versus the other. And now they're not friends anymore. I want to get the scoop on this from Corey DeAngelis. Corey DeAngelis is a senior fellow at the American Culture Project, and he's also the author of the book, The Parent Revolution. Corey, what say you, sir?
Yeah, I mean, these resolutions were supposed to be private, and we can see why. This is just, look, I mean, this is the one that baffles me the most. You'd think that that they would be friendly with the ADL, but they're even coming after them and cutting ties with them because there's so much infighting with the Democrat Party, and in particular the NEA, that they're trying to pull the organization as far left as possible. And you know, with all the Palestine stuff, they I guess they just can't help themselves and partner with the ADL. It's insane. They've always given kind of these curricular materials to schools, and now they can. But they also passed a resolution to basically call Trump a fascist, and they're spending thousands of dollars to do so. And in that resolution, they actually misspelled the word fascism. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, Rich. I mean,
well,
you got the teachers union. Oh, it's insane. I mean, you got the teachers union misspelling in their official resolution to label the duly elected president of the United States as a fascist. They're misspelling the word fascism. I mean, you just really can't make this stuff up. It's beyond parody. And they had a separate one to basically say that the Trump administration is authoritarian, and that they were going to support students in opposing Trump's policies. And they tried to pretend that one was about freedom of expression for the students. But if you notice, that one didn't call to allow students to freely express their support of Trump's policies. No, they put their thumb on the scale in one direction. This is a one-sided political organization, and this is another reason why we should revoke that union's federal charter. They've had one for over 100 years. They get this special privilege. They have the backing of Congress. Most people don't know this. This is the only union in the country that has a federal charter. It allows them to lobby more effectively. It allows them to get what they want in D.C. It allows them to have more of a favorable rating with the public, because it gives them this kind of aura of having the backing of the federal government. It's insane that we ever bestowed this right upon them. And even if they did at one point have, you know, this original mission of just being about teachers' rights, they've strayed so far from that mission, Rich. It's so obvious now. Look, with these resolutions, they're even passed a separate one. I mean, they're just all off the wall. They passed one to call it racist to want to abolish the Department of Education, as if that department has any track record at closing achievement gaps. I mean, if anything, it's the opposite. Keeping that department is more racist than anything, because it fails inner city minority kids more than anybody else. You look in New York City, they spend about $40,000 per kid per year in the government schools. And guess what? The nation's report card last year just found that only 13% of black eighth graders in New York City are proficient in math. That is a failure of the Department of Education. We should abolish it, send that money back to the states, and not tie the hands of teachers so much with all the regulations.
Corey DeAngelis, what are some of the steps, or what is the step to rescind this charter? Is this something that
Yeah.
would be part of a rescission package or separate legislation, or what would the steps needed be?
Yeah, there's a bill in Congress right now by Representative Bob Good, a Republican, obviously, and
from Virginia.
It's pretty simple. Yeah, revoke the federal charter of the NEA. The thing is, to get anything done in Washington, D.C. and Congress, if it's not done through reconciliation, which we saw just happen with the big, beautiful bill, which, by the way, has a school choice provision in it, which could be nationwide, but it requires governors to opt in. So, you know, the Democrats in New York City probably aren't going to do that. But if they don't, maybe they'll see some political backlash, because this program in the big, beautiful bill is a tax credit at the federal level. You're letting your constituents keep more of their own money instead of shipping it off to D.C. It doesn't defund public schools at all. It allows for more school choice. And so maybe some Democrat governors will come along and do the right thing. And if they don't, maybe the voters should hold them accountable next election. But that's the way you do it. You have to pass it through Congress. The House does not just needs a simple majority, which is great. I think the Republicans should at least advance the ball forward in the House, but the Senate requires a filibuster-proof majority. You need 60 votes. That means you need 7 Democrats to come along. And who knows, maybe some Democrats come along and say, hey, I like all these other unions. None of these other unions have a federal charter. Let's level the playing field. Why does the NEA get one but nobody else does? It's a special privilege. I mean, even if you support teachers unions, what about AFT? What about Randy? Why isn't Randy Weingart mad about this? She doesn't have a federal charter, but the NEA does. And if anything, if they're not going to revoke it, the original charter stated that there's supposed to be additional kind of reporting requirements from the NEA. They're not following through with any of that. So why don't we weaponize that federal charter? If we're not going to take it away from them, why don't we say, hey, we're giving all these privileges. Well, how about you do some reporting to us about all of your political activities and whatnot, if you're going to get the backing of Congress? Maybe the NEA will have them begging to revoke their charter if we actually use that against them. So that's kind of the two avenues we have to take: either use that charter as a tool to hold them accountable, or revoke it, because nobody else has one.
Either way, it sounds like Congress has the leverage. Hopefully they'll use it. Corey DeAngelis, let everybody know how they can find you and keep up to speed with the work you're doing.
Yep, you can follow me at on X. It's at DeAngelis Corey, and I'm also a senior advisor at the American Culture Project and a visiting fellow at the American Institute for Economic Research. You can also find my book. It's called The Parent Revolution. It's endorsed by Trump, and I think it's about 50% off on Amazon right now. It's The Parent Revolution.
Outstanding. Corey DeAngelis, thanks for being with us and keeping us up to speed on what's going on. Keep up the good work. Godspeed, my man.
Thanks so much, Rich. Good talking to you.
You bet. And amigos, we are going to bring it to you guys now, the American people. You get to weigh in your thoughts, your calls, your reactions on everything, on Hakeem Jeffries, on your thoughts on the political tides of the day, and so much more. So we're going to talk about that straight ahead. 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
You're educating America, and you are giving us an opportunity to speak freely. That's why I love this station, and I love your show.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdez. We're doing Open Phone America. Of course, that's a time-honored tradition here on our program that dates back to 1978. Yes, that is the year I was born. And that's the year that Larry King took this program and created Open Phone America, taking calls from all over the country on any topic, no rules. And he was blessed, I'm going to say, to continue that with the late, great Jim Bohannon for 3 decades. And now you and I have the honor of continuing that tradition. So we're going to get tonight. We got a bunch of calls, a lot from Ohio, Idaho, Florida, and so much more. Let's see. Where do we go here? Let's go to John. John is in Brunswick, Ohio, WNIR. John, go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. Hey, before I make my point, can I clarify something that I said the last time I spoke to you when I want to make sure I wasn't misunderstood?
No, let's stick with today's point.
Oh, okay. You said that with regard to twisting the truth, that's what the left does.
Mm-hmm.
My response to that is that's what politicians and pundits from both sides do. And anybody who does fact checking on a regular basis is going to find plenty to complain about on both sides. Twisting the truth is not a partisan issue. It happens on both sides.
Yeah, listen, I'll agree with you on that point. I'll concede the point to you. I think what I was saying in particular, though, John, was with respect to Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries was really just, contorting the truth and making a pretzel out of the existing law in order to make it seem like something egregious was happening when it was nothing more than what's supposed to happen that was happening. And if we had to be fair, the White House isn't doing that, right? Trump is not going out of his way to twist things into a pretzel to say that something that's happening isn't happening, or that it's he's just telling it like it is. Now, there have been times where Trump has been, I'm going to say, overzealous. He's embellished. We're going to build a wall. Mexico's going to pay, and I would say technically that probably happened. But I see people when I get it when they make the argument. But here with Hakeem Jeffries saying that, they said they were only going after, no, they said they were going to start with those, right? So, I mean, he was blatantly lying is the point that I'm making. And it's because they're grasping at straws and they don't have much left. Conversely, right now, Republicans there's no need for them to lie because they're on a winning streak. And that was really the juxtaposition I was trying to make. But thank you, John. I appreciate your point. Shout out to Brunswick, Ohio, WNIR. And John, of course, giving good insight there. And let me see. Where should we go? We're going to go to the next caller up. Jeff, Austintown, Ohio, also on WNIR. Jeff, go right ahead, sir.
Hey, I just called up to congratulate you, Mr. 38. Did you hear about it?
I did just this morning. Thank you, sir.
You're smiling over the air, over the phone. I can hear you.
Yeah, I am. I am.
Most popular talk radio host in America.
Yeah, in America. In
America. That's how we say it.
It is. It makes me happy, and I thank you for the recognition. I really do, because I've been doing the national show now. It's my third year. And in those 3 years, every year, I was able to make that list. And that in and of itself is an honor. We started out at number 88 on that list, and then we moved up to number 83, moving up 5 slots. And then this year we came in at number 38, moving up 45 slots. So really, really happy about the growth the program is having and the impact it's having on our industry. And you guys can't do it without listeners. I always say that, you're a crazy person if you have a talk show and you don't have listeners, right? You're just talking to yourself. So Jeff in Austintown, Ohio, thank you, brother. God bless you. And we continue. Let me see. I have time? I do. Let us continue. Let's go to Paul. Paul's in Boise, Idaho. KBFI. Go right ahead, sir.
Thanks for taking my call, Rich.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Congratulations on that. Your show is going to improve even more as far as climbing that ladder. And before you know it, you're going to reach the pinnacle and you'll be number one. That's
your
the
lips
way,
to God's
that's the way
ears,
I
brother.
see you.
Thank you.
That's the way you. That's the way you do your show. It's bound to happen. Just keep doing what you're doing. Don't let anybody talk you into doing it any different. Do it the way you like to do it.
Thank you.
It works. So as far as Hakeem Jeffries is concerned, they were really concerned just before the bill got sent through that there was going to be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people dying on the streets, basically, because they're not going to get any kind of medical attention because the bill is going to take the money out.
Millions of people won't have health care. Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard that and I'm thinking, what country am I in? Who tells lies like that when they're trying to portray the truth? It's kind of like Nikita Khrushchev when he was there at the what you call it there in New York.
Oh yeah, in the UN.
United Nations. He was at the United Nations. He took a cue off and he started smacking the heel
on the podium
on there, saying, "We will bury you." You know, I'm thinking the same thing when I'm hearing Hakeem Jeffries say that. It just makes no sense to lie about something that's so blatant you can't miss it. You know what I'm saying?
100%. You know, Paul, I think you're spot on here. Check this out. I this is one of those things where I think, man, there are many things that I've heard politicians lie about over the years, but this one about the Medicaid and all that, it's so dumb in my opinion. And I'm giving you the most rudimentary level, right? I say it's dumb because I've never really seen a case. I've seen, yes, I can't go to this doctor because I have to go to that doctor. Maybe this doctor's better, the best doctor in the world, but he doesn't take this insurance. Okay, I've seen that. But I've never seen somebody like kicked to the curb, not even a homeless person who's high as a kite and doesn't know their name. I've never seen a person denied medical care in our country. Everybody gets it. If you go to the emergency room now, you're going to see throngs of illegal immigrants that use it as their primary care. You're going to see people that are homeless, people that are drunk, anybody who needs it's going to get it. We are incredibly blessed in our country to have the medical infrastructure that we have, and I'm sure we could afford to add more to it. But by and large, this is the case. Now, I know I might have lived a sheltered life, and perhaps I don't know all, I don't see all, but in the short years I've been around, I really just haven't seen that type of thing happen. I've heard of people saying, oh, I lost my doctor, especially with Obamacare. Got it. But nothing like what you hear coming out of Canada. When our Canadian callers call in, I've had people tell me, you know, we sneak into Michigan to go to the ER so that we won't die. I've heard that from more than one person in Canada. I've never heard an American say, I've snuck into another country to get medical care. I've heard Americans say, I've gone to Mexico because dental's cheaper. I've heard them say, I went to Colombia to get liposuction. But I've never heard, I'm going to sneak into a neighboring country like Mexico or Canada to go to their ER. Not going to happen, right? Because why? Because God bless America. So good point, Paul. I appreciate it. We're going to go to Holly Hill, Florida right after this. And Debbie in Canton, don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome back. Another hour for you guys. 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and on the East Coast, it's 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And our phone number, if you want to join me in our late night national town hall conversation, give me a call. Here's the number, 833-4VALDEZ, 833-482-5337. And this hour, we're going to get into a bunch of things. I really want to talk about the media. The media is obviously something I tend to talk about pretty often, being part of the media in the radio world as a radio talk show host. I have a unique perspective, I think, because I get to talk to people all across the country. Think of all these people that were fired from CNN, and there was a bunch of them, right? You had Brian Stelter. Let me see, Allison Camerata, Jim Acosta, Don Lemon. There was so many. Let me see if I could come up with there's other ones here. I don't even know about these. Hang on. Hey, bear with me. A bunch of names here I don't even know. Let me see who else we've got here. All right, here we go. Robin Meade. I don't know Robin Meade. Allison Kosick. I don't know her either. Wow, there's a lot. Anyway, Chris Cuomo. I mean, there were so many. Chris Cillizza. I remember him. He did a political column. Martin Savage. Alexandra Field. Who else do we have here? Marianne Fox. Again, and you probably never heard of those people either. But there was a number of pundits, left-wing pundits, that were let go. And I think it was mainly because the network couldn't justify keeping them around when they were bringing heat, right? In my opinion, they were bringing heat. It wasn't working anymore, right? At one point, they needed this kind of pit bull type of approach, just beat up Trump, beat up the Republicans, gaslight everybody. But it hurt their ratings. It was a bloodbath in the ratings. You saw the birth of, not really the birth, but I'd say the rise of Newsmax, right? Newsmax really taking out Fox, taking out CNN in certain shows in prime time, surpassing MSNBC on occasion, right? Going neck and neck with them, top 5, top 4. And this, I think, served as a lesson. The birth of News Nation, right, where they came out and said, we're not going to be so left-wing. We're really going to try and be kind of down the middle. And this whole media thing, I think, opened up a lot of opportunity for people because they realized people like El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States. And because they like Trump, they realized, you know what? They knew that Trump was a rating success for them. But what I think they didn't bank on was that their propaganda wasn't going to take root with the audience the way they thought it would. And I think now we have a different world. Right now, CNN's singing somewhat of a different tune. They still have their primetime shows that really skew to the left, but that's kind of what they're known for. But they also have, people like Harry Enton. They've brought on, what's his name? The guy from Kentucky, the McConnell guy, who does a great job. Anyway, if you guys remember his name, let me know in my ear. I don't know why. Scott Jennings. He does a terrific job. And now they have some representation, right? Because, it'd been a long time since you'd seen any conservatives, even Republicans, on CNN. MSNBC made a couple of changes as well. They got rid of Joy Reid and a couple of others, but they still maintain their pretty radical left, socialist type of angle. They don't get rid of Maddow because she actually is entertaining to watch and listen to. She's a talented, in my opinion, a talented broadcaster. I don't agree with anything she says, but she's good at saying it, and that works. That works well for them. Her podcast does well. Her radio show is very listenable, even if you didn't agree with it when she had a show on Air America in New York City. And ultimately, I say all that I'm saying because the landscape seems to be changing. And people really want a news, information, entertainment outlet. I don't mean the network, but even by the program that they can relate to. They want something that's entertaining, something that's informative, something that they feel that they can trust. Even if it's I can trust Rachel Maddow to say crazy things. I know that if she's not going to disappoint. I know she's got just Joy Reid. I can guarantee you, if I need a clip for this show, 6 minutes of Joy Reid, I'll probably get 10 cuts. Right? I can trust her for that. You have to develop that level of trust. Now, many of her listeners probably like the stuff that she's talking about, and it's red meat for them. Cool. But the landscape has changed because Americans really got tired of these people telling them how to think and what to think and realizing things aren't what we've been told. CNN was telling you that Trump is a racist. Meanwhile, Trump's doing all these things to free black men from jail, to free black women from jail, really, and only black women and black men, right? The First Step Act didn't help white people. It didn't help Hispanic people. It only helped black people. So to make this argument that Trump is racist, it's a tough one. There are so many black people that like Trump. And I've shared this story before, but I'd be remiss if I didn't share it again. On occasion, I've told you I have some friends that made bad decisions growing up, and some of them went a different route than I did, and I hadn't talked to them in a long time. And one of them decided to become a professional drug dealer, and he got in trouble after many years and much success in his profession, and he had to go to jail. And when he was in jail, I remember he called me, and I had lost touch with him, but he calls me from jail, and he's like, "Yo, I can get the computer sometimes, and I see your stuff. Congratulations, I'm glad you're doing good." And he's like, "Yo, let me tell you, your man Trump, everybody here likes him." And I said, "Where are you?" He tells me the name of the jail, and I was like, "Wow, that's really interesting." This was in 2020 or 2019, going into that 2020 re-election. And I said, "So everybody's talking." I was like, "So they talk about politics in jail?" He said, "Well," he's like, "they don't normally." He said, "But everybody here is talking about how Trump helped their child's mother, or helped their cousin or somebody in their family." And he said, "There's a lot of love for Trump in this jail." And he said, "And I just moved out of the Hispanic section of the jail, and they moved me into the black section with some Bloods and some Crips over here." And he said, "They've got a lot of love for Trump." And I was floored by this statement from him, because, I just didn't know that's how things went down in jail at the time. And it was eye-opening to me to think, if that is the discourse that's going on in the day room in prison, then guess what? Trump's making an impact. Fast forward to this most recent election, and you see, 60% plus Hispanics, men mainly, voting for Trump. Growth with African-American men. People said it couldn't happen. Democrats would always get 90% of that vote. I meet African-American men all the time that tell me, "Yeah, I mess with Trump. I like Trump. He's telling it like it is." A lot of people relate to that. So it's forced the media to say, no matter how much we tell them that Trump, the orange man, is very bad, they're going to go ahead and like him anyway, because he relates to them and his policies are popular with the people. That, my friends, is a recipe for a win. And that's where we are. So I want to talk about the media because there's lots of media out there, right? There's radio, and there's podcast, and there's television and cable and broadcast and all of that. But I want to dig into the nitty-gritty and talk about the media, talk about the impact the media is having on today's day and age, because many people get their news from social media and they just see stuff. And there's a ton of AI out there, that deep fake stuff that, tells you whatever they want you to hear. A lot of it's just funny, but some of it's believable. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to take your calls as well, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. But I want to just give you a little foreshadowing. There's a magazine out there called Talkers Magazine. It's a great magazine, and Michael Harrison. Those of you who've listened to the Bohannon Show for years know Michael Harrison. He's a great broadcaster in his own right, and he's the publisher of Talkers Magazine, and really an authority on the media in general, especially in the audio format. And he's going to join us in a moment, because we're going to pick his brain a little bit about his thoughts. And on occasion, we've had other broadcasters like Stephen A. Smith, and even federal regulators like the FCC commissioner, Brendan Carr, and other FCC commissioners on this program. But I want to talk to Michael Harrison and get his perspective as a publisher, as a broadcaster, as a professional who really understands this, and from many angles, not just a political perspective. So I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. Keep it locked right here. I'm Valdez, and we're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our conversation on the media, in particular, the format of radio, the spoken word. And this is obviously, my favorite medium. I love radio, but I want to talk a little bit about it. And I'm going to get to your calls. I see you got people lined up from Illinois, from Montreal, Canada, Vermont, Ohio. Stick with me. We're going to get to you momentarily. Open Phone America will commence when we finish with our guest. But I want to talk about media because I think it's important. And of course, the impact is always there. And there was a clip our producer pulled for us about how theater of the mind works and how there's things in radio you can do that you couldn't do anywhere else. And I want you to hear a little bit of this. Check this out.
I'm just sort of walking around here inside the theater of my mind.
How did I get in here?
I put you in here. That's the nice thing about radio. I can put anything I want in here. Watch out for those elephants.
That was close. Watch yourself. You almost stepped in front of that train.
I saw it coming, actually.
Is that a merry-go-round over there by those Inca ruins?
Yes, it is.
Well, what do you mean that's the nice thing about radio?
Well, unlike, say, TV, which is at the mercy of the size of the screen, you know, the monitor of our head is limitless.
I get it.
Like that giant pterodactyl over there, taking a bite out of the Superdome.
That's neat.
Send the synthesizer players in, will you?
Come on in.
And you get the idea, right? Theater of the mind. We can paint whatever kind of picture we want, and we can be as descriptive in our storytelling as we can be. And I think it causes a connection like no other. Definitely not something that I achieve when I'm, on Newsmax. And not that I'm poo-pooing Newsmax. I love Newsmax. It's just a different format, different way of connecting with people. So I want to bring in a pro who, of course, I think on this program needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He's the founder of Talkers Magazine. He's a broadcaster and a longtime friend of this program and my predecessor, the late, great Jim Bohannon. I'm happy to have him on the show tonight. Michael Harrison, welcome, sir.
Rich Valdez, it's great to be with you again, and congratulations on the consistent growth of the show. What a great job you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you. It's very kind of you. We have an amazing team here. That I can't take all the credit, but I'm grateful for whatever part is mine, and I'm grateful for you for the recognition of it as well. And I want to congratulate you on putting together that list, the annual Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America. Can't be that easy to put together, given there's thousands of radio shows and many of them very, very popular. How do you figure all that, and do you make a lot of enemies along the way?
Well, we may make enemies. Most people are very nice about it, and the people that are on the list are usually happy. Sometimes, of course, because we actually number the list, which in any industry is a very gutsy thing to do. People sometimes go, "Why is that person ahead of me?" And what it really comes down to is that radio is as much an art as it is a science, and that's including the measurement of its quality. This is a qualitative survey, but it doesn't mean we don't use the word good, we don't use the word big, we don't use the word best, we use the word important. And important means that it really plays a role in the image of the radio and the talk radio industry as much as it does giving a reflection of who's popular and who's doing well. I think that it's an image thing as well for the business, and that's why it's important that it be representative of many different types of programming, many different parts of the country, and many different size stages, and we take all that into account.
Michael Harrison from Talkers Magazine. I think you're nailing it right there. You're hitting the nail on the head in every way. But I think, moreover, you said it's good for the industry, and I agree that it's good for the industry, and I agree on the use of the word important, and not because of my inclusion in this, but I think it's a good way of putting it, because the importance of the contribution of the program or the broadcaster, or however it's set up, is only as important as who they're reaching and the impact that it has on the listeners. And when you look at a list that includes people. Longtime legends like Mark Levin, longtime legends like Howard Stern, right? It's a pretty much, I think, an all-encompassing list that really gives people an understanding of talk radio that they may not have had before, I think, when they look at it, because it kind of gives you the landscape, and nobody else is doing it. Do you have any competitors? I'm not aware of any.
Well, I don't know if we have. I guess there are other trade magazines and trade publications, but we're very we're an interesting trade publication. Some people call us quirky. We're not corporate. We're very independent, and we recognize the art as much as the business and the nuts and the bolts of the industry, and usually trade publications don't do that, or they become fan magazines. And we're not a fan magazine. We're for professional broadcasters. Just happens that it has an intelligent audience that loves to know what's going on behind the scenes. So we have a tremendous number of subscribers and readers that are not in the business, but are in the business of listening to the business. And as you know, Rich, here in the 21st century, there's not as much of a fence or a boundary between audiences and performers. Everybody's a star. The audience has an audience. So these are unprecedented times. So, we're exploring as much as we are innovating, but we've been around for 35 years, and that's a pretty long time when you think about it.
Yeah, and I wanted to congratulate you on that. I know that this was your big 35th year publication, and that's I think about I'm 47, so 35 years ago I was a little kid, but you look at radio, and in many ways it's remained remarkably consistent. In other ways, it's grown by leaps and bounds. So I want to continue our conversation on radio when we come back. Amigos, we are on with Michael Harrison. He's the host of the Michael Harrison Interview. It's an amazing program. You should check it out. He's the founder and publisher of Talkers Magazine, the home of the Heavy 100 list, which was released just today, I think, yesterday morning. And we're going to continue that conversation with Michael Harrison straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, familia, welcome back, amigos. We continue the conversation with Michael Harrison, founder of Talkers Magazine and the host of the Michael Harrison Interview. And I have to say, I was once on his show, the Michael Harrison Interview, and it was a really, really fun time. He asked me one question, and I think I went on for a half hour. He had to stop me. Anyway, Michael Harrison, welcome back. I want to continue our talk because, again, we were talking about theater of the mind. We're talking about how radio was and continues to evolve, and you were talking about the audience having their own audience. And that is an evolution that just didn't exist before, where, people can pull out their cell phone and have this video audience. They can go live and stream right from their pocket. What impact do you see that having on the media as a whole, right? Because I think that probably affects television more so than it affects radio.
It affects television. It affects newspapers. I mean, if everything is reduced to the same format, text, and pictures and video and the same designs, every platform is the same, and every platform can be picked up on every vehicle, and it all overlaps. Well, that whole technological, sociological connection that we experienced in the 20th century that still influences, the nature of media, that whole thing where a newspaper is a newspaper and a movie is on the silver screen and a radio comes to a box that has an AM and FM dial and TV has an antenna on the roof. And, that whole paradigm is gone.
Right.
And so much of the art and so much of the community that emanated from each of those reflected aspects of the platform. It's like watching a movie in a beautiful theater with a chandelier on the roof, or some some small room with a broken down screen. I mean, it's very different. So we face the challenge of maintaining our radio-ness in the radio industry. Not to stop being radio. It's sort of there's an essence to radio. It's an aesthetic. It's hard to describe what it means. Does it mean AM or FM, or can it be satellite? Can it be online. It can be all those things, but what makes radio radio? And that is what radio has to continue to project, I think, because there was a lot of magic in the media back in the era just before this one. And there's not as much magic now. It's more utilitarian. And I think the magic plays a major role in the special place that radio or television or movies or newspapers or magazines can have in our lives.
You know, that's really well put, Michael Harrison. And I think that you're right. I know that I had a local show in New York City, and it was set to very popular and modern hip-hop music, and it was an edgy type of vibe. But coming to this program, it had a lot of legacy to it, and I wanted to soak in a lot of the old school talk radio culture, having the opportunity to, get on the mic that Jim Bohannon was rocking for 30 years, and before him, Larry King, and before him, Long John Neville. And I thought, man, these guys are all titans in the game. I need to kind of, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, not, come here and change the game and bring my New York flavor with me. And that's what I did. And I think we tried to pick this bumper music that was old school talk radio, old school Johnny Carson-ish type of thing. And we got a lot of compliments on that. And it's what you're talking about, right? It's that essence of radio that we try to get. And I guess the larger point I'm trying to make here is I do weekly commentaries on television, and they're wonderful. But radio is very different. And I don't know what that, to speak in French, that je ne sais quoi, I don't know what it is, that X factor that radio has. But it is not simultaneous, right? I guess it's easiest said. I don't mind being on TV on the camera, and I don't mind being on a microphone. I'm comfortable in both. But I'm not comfortable when I'm being recorded doing radio for whatever crazy reason. And I guess because that's when the magic happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, radio is much more challenging because it is, as you have said many times during the course of the evening, the theater of the mind. It is the theater of the mind. We're dealing with a whole different set of circumstances in terms of, that mysterious thing called human consciousness.
Right.
And it gets, you can't really analyze these things without getting into some heavy media theory. It does get difficult to sort it all out. It is abstract. It's not easy. The relationship between form and content, the relationship between the stage and the people performing upon the stage, it all plays a role in creating a loose definition, at least in our mind, of what this art form is all about. But radio psychologically, radio educationally, entertainment-wise, and information-wise, you have one platform. You have this institution known as the radio station, which brings together different programs and brings together different organizations under one roof in some cases that create community. And you have a news element. You have a fun and an entertainment element. And you have an education element. And then there's the first responder element, which is becoming more and more of an issue. People are realizing that maybe it's good to keep this AM and FM thing and towers and over-the-air broadcasting and generators and broadcast equipment.
Stuff that works when there's no internet.
Around. Yeah, because we suddenly realized, we had this feeling 20 years ago that the internet was infallible and it would never go down, and it would preserve democracy forever and bring out the best in humanity. And suddenly we realized, whoa, maybe we shouldn't throw away the baby with the bathwater yet, even though we're going in the digital age. Those analog systems have a great value going forward as part of the media mix.
Yeah. Now, Michael Harrison, before you go, I want to ask you two questions. I'll ask you both right now. Number one, tell us about the next Talkers Confab, when it is, when we can look forward to that. And also, the last time we spoke, or 2 times ago, you were telling us about a band that you play in, and I want to know what's going on with that. Are you guys on tour? Do you have any new music? What's up?
Well, we're at Gun Hill Road, and, we play songs about the issues we have almost 500,000 views over the years, and downloads, and people checking us out all over the world with our videos and our music that goes all the way back to the late 60s. It's an old band. The only band, I think, that most of its attention comes from talk radio, not from music radio. So people can check that out at gunhillroadmusic.com. gunhillroadmusic.com. As far as our conferences are concerned, we did a little bit of an experimental one in New York earlier that you participated in, called Generations 2025. And we basically, and we're going to do that again next year and get back to the regular Talkers Conference in the summer of 26. We'll be doing the college radio conference, which is professionals and broadcasters from campuses. And we're going to do that in New York City this coming February 2026, based on the feeling that as an industry, the radio industry has got to develop young talent and young audiences if it wants to continue to play a role going forward. And what better place to do that than to bring in 1,000 of the top college broadcasters from radio stations around the country. And they, of course, are connected to audiences that like that kind of thing. So that's been working out real well as we try to do everything we can as a service to the industry to encourage it to move forward into the future. Honoring its past, maintaining its old schoolness, which is part of its charm, but not getting lost and stuck back in the 20th century, moving forward into the digital age, and keeping the idea of audio-oriented, radio station-oriented media alive, because it plays so many roles in so many lives.
Outstanding. Who could say it better? Michael Harrison, founder and publisher of Talkers Magazine, and one of the guys from Gun Hill Road, which is in the Bronx, by the way.
Right. Oh, it's named after the It's nothing about guns. People who are a gun organization. No. It's named after Gun Hill Road, and I have a ball at this point in my life being a member of a rock band. That I'm not one of the original members. I used to play them on the radio in New York back in 1971, 72, when I hosted a show on WNEW FM in New York, and one of the early album rockers. And cool. I used to, and now I'm in the band. It's great, a lot of fun.
Outstanding. Michael Harrison, always a pleasure to catch up with you. Thanks for making the time to join us this evening. I really appreciate it. Godspeed with everything you're doing at Talkers, and hopefully we'll cross paths again soon.
Thank you, Rich, and congratulations on your showing in the Heavy 100.
Amen. Thank you. Likewise, same to you in 35 years of Talkers. And amigos, we continue. Your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, and everything else straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I'm so glad to be on your show, Rich. It's an amazing broadcast that I hope the rest of America listens to every day.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Let us continue with our phone calls. Where do I want to go? We're going to go right here, right now, to Walter. He's in St. Augustine, Florida, WFOY. Go right ahead.
Yeah, ¿cómo está, Rich?
Muy bien. Thank you, sir.
Good. I'm not sure you went over this, Rich, but people should know that this Mamdani guy is not only a socialist, but worse yet, he defended the term globalized to intifada and compared the word intifada to an uprising. So, Rich, I hope that you got to help get Curtis elected, because it seems that anti-Semitism has evolved, and Curtis won't stand for that if he gets into Gracie Mansion, and he won't have the NYPD stand for it either.
You're 100% right, Walter. I'll tell you this. This Mamdani, who I am now calling Mad Manny, Zohran Mamdani, he not only... he was asked, do you denounce the global intifada? And he said, no, he doesn't denounce it. So if you don't denounce it, you're for it, in my opinion. And you're right. This is bad news for America, bad news for New York City. It's a bad look overall. And 100% from your lips to God's ears, we need to get Curtis elected. We need to get more New Yorkers involved. And I went out for a happy hour after shooting an episode of Newsmax. And one of the people that were on the show with me were telling me about how they were out with a friend over the weekend and got into this discussion about Mad Manny. And lo and behold, they were defending him, saying, no, I think he's really good. He's a really good speaker. The same stuff we heard about Obama. And he's handsome, he's eloquent, blah, blah, blah. And when they explained, how he was taking his policy positions right out of the Communist Manifesto and his, call for the intifada, all of a sudden they were like, oh, really? I didn't know about all that. But he's still a handsome guy with a nice beard as a woman. And I thought to myself, man, we need all hands on deck to make sure that people know exactly what's going on. Otherwise, we might see a repeat of what happened with Obama. So very good point, Walter. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Godspeed, my man. Let's go to Debbie, Canton, Ohio, WNIR. Debbie, you want to talk about ICE agents? Go right ahead.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Rich.
Pleasure.
First of all, I fell in love with Jim Bohannon many years ago. I got to tell you about. I heard that thing, and I'm only learning to like you. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Okay, just saying, I like you. I love Jim, but I like you. Here's the thing: I heard that $178 billion has been dedicated to ICE and DHS and FBI for immigration control. $178 billion. That's what I heard. Am I wrong on that?
I can't. I don't have the big beautiful bill in front of me, but it sounds right. I think it was I know it was a big number that was allocated to border security.
Now, with all that money, I hope that they could probably calm things down a little bit and maybe put names on there, not their names, but identify themselves, not be masked and not come in like a raid. And how about if they know a person is an immigrant, and maybe show up, knock on their door, and just talk to them a little bit and say, hey, we know you're an illegal immigrant. How about we're going to take you now. Could you say goodbye to your kids? Not rip them out of their cars.
Well, let me weigh in on this because this is, I think, the bigger question here is it's law enforcement, right? It's the enforcement of law and the deterrent of illegal activity. So, for example, when you're driving down the highway and you, instead of doing 70 or 65 or whatever your speed limit is, you are doing 88 and you didn't realize that your lead foot got the better of you, and behind you is a state police car. And a state trooper gets out of the car, highway patrol, and everybody knows the staties are not known for being polite, pleasant, or anything like that. And they driver's license, registration, and most people are nervous. Their palms are sweaty. They're thinking of how they're going to get out. Did I do something, officer? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Blah blah blah. I apologize. Everybody's trying to get out of the ticket. All right, and these guys have either a big Smokey the Bear hat on, a cowboy hat on, the brim pulled all the way over their eyes. If you've met one state trooper, you've met them all. And they are so uniform in their approach. And what happens, right? Usually you don't get a warning. Usually you do get a ticket. And you go on to tell people, man, listen, I got pulled over by the state police. Doesn't matter what state you're in. And it was a big guy. He was in shape. You never see fat. Very rarely do you see a fat state trooper. And your experience is usually they don't play. Right? And that's on purpose. That's not an accident. They do this on purpose so that people won't do it again. And when I was at a resort, all of last week, and they treated me very nicely, and they made me want to come back. Now, if we send ICE agents there, they're going to say, hey, listen, I know this is very tough on everybody. Could you please kiss your wife and kids? All right, there you go. All right, listen, let me help you with your bags. And they put the bags gently into their car downstairs. And listen, you don't have to put on handcuffs. Just promise you won't strangle me on the way in. And you get all this extra to try and accommodate people they're going to go home and tell their friends, listen, I got deported, but you know what? They couldn't have been any nicer. They were very, very nice to me. They bought me donuts and coffee on the way to the jail, to the holding facility. And they were very, very polite. And that is not going to deter people from coming back to this country. But I'll tell you what will deter. When a video of somebody, being removed, maybe forcibly because they're resisting from their job, where they were not supposed to work because they have a felony warrant for child sex trafficking or something like that, and that gets on the news and it makes its way across the border to whatever country they may have come from, and people see that and say, you know what? We can't do this anymore. We can't keep going to America because they're going to snatch us up off the streets with these masked men. I'll get into the masked men straight ahead. I got to take a pause right here, but you can't dox the police and then expect them to put their identities out there. They're people too. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Let's go to the phones. Bethel, Connecticut, WLAD. Joe, go right ahead.
Hello, Mr. Valdez.
Hey, Joe.
Congratulations on being the #1 broadcaster in America.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm actually number 38 out of 100, but I'll take it. I appreciate it, Joe. God bless you. Thanks for your sentiments. Jane in Saratoga, New York, WGDJ, thank you for calling. I can't get to you now, but I promise I'll get to you tomorrow. Tony in Montreal, Canada, same thing. Amigos, it's a blessing to be with you. Happy to be here. We're going to do it again tomorrow. We're doing it live like we do every day. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.